Hello and welcome to Pods Like Us. I'm Martin Quibble, known to my friends as Marv, and this time I am speaking with Shan and Robbie from Cold Tapes. We're going to get into this, an audio drama that is a murder mystery that you, as the listener, have to solve to be put in for a draw to potentially win £10,000.
That's right.
Where's the crowd?
Have you solved it yet, Martin?
I've just last night listened to, I've got as far as episode 21, which is not bad in a week and a half.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
You're in it. I think the 21st file, according to what we're hearing from listeners, is like, it's a big one. It's when people get really hooked and want to know why Drew was killed, and they start their investigation from there.
Yeah, it's great parts to get juicy there.
Yeah, it's juicy.
Yeah, there's some interesting things that you find out over the last few episodes that are like, oh, right, that's a bit juicy.
Yeah.
They were carefully sequenced so that we were hoping that was what the listeners were going to feel and think as they were listening. So there's lots more of that to come. There's a lot more twists.
Oh, it's only getting started.
Yeah.
Right. So what's your history with podcasting then?
So we work for a production company called Free Turn. So Cold Tapes is our second podcast that we've released, and we produce movies and TV dramas as well as podcasts. The sort of heritage of the company is in movies, really. And it was set up the day that the pandemic kicked off in the UK.
Right.
So obviously that had a big effect on the entertainment industry too, not just our lives. But the company kind of looked at audio as another route to entertain people and kind of adapted through the pandemic and started developing projects specifically for audio as drama podcasts. And they had some success. They got a commission, we got a commission from Audible in the USA to make a sci-fi series called The Salvation that came out last year. But obviously being Audible, you've got to have an Audible subscription to listen to that. So Cold Tapes is a huge deal for us because obviously it's free to listen to for everywhere that you get your podcasts. And we've got several other audio dramas in development. We partnered with Screen Yorkshire last year to run a competition to develop for young writers based in the north of England who are either from the north or working in the north, to help them develop original ideas as audio dramas. And we had 4 successful applicants, and we've got the final pilot scripts ready for the likes of the Audibles of this world and BBC to read. And we want to get those made, don't we? And then we've got other true crime factual series in development and also in pre-production. So we're making a series for Global that'll come out later this year that is based on about a true crime that sort of took place in 2017 that involves crypto fraud. So we're immersed in podcasting now, well and truly, as a business, and it's thriving.
But Cold Tapes is our baby.
It is.
Because it's the first project that, you know, like completely was cooked up in house, self-funded. Robbie came up with a concept, and it kind of was just something that we thought, that would be cool. Let's marry gaming and audio and these kind of immersive experiences, escape rooms that seem to have blown up. How can we marry all of these things? Make a listening experience that actually isn't passive. You're an active participant in that, and it just
the whole company came together to build it, to develop the story, to market it, to understand the technical capabilities of distributing. As you've been through, you started this pod during the pandemic too, didn't you, Martin? I
did.
I mean, amazing work to keep it going and building, and we'd love to make cold tapes like an event every year for the foreseeable, that people know that is coming and that they can all get involved with and play along with.
Yeah, we'd love that.
Yeah, that's the dream.
Well, you've potentially got almost a franchise thing going here, because it's you've got this character that is, I mean, dare I say that it's a bit almost like she's like a modern, almost like Agatha Christie character, where you can have this character in any situation where you've got a crime that's been committed, a murder, and she can go there and investigate these different incidents. So you could have this like character that is like that, can go everywhere, which is fascinating, but also doing it in the thing where she's restricted because there's the remoteness of it all. Because it's in the Antarctic and they can't actually go there at this time. So they've got to do it all remotely, in the whole investigation and all this. That adds another interesting level to it. Yeah.
I mean, our DCI Tessa McAllister, she fronts the investigation, and everything that we're experiencing through her lens, because she's going through the evidence. And we're kind of listening along and hearing her form her theories based on that. But Holly Frame, who's the actress that plays her, is absolutely phenomenal, isn't she? And she brought this character to life in ways that I couldn't even have dreamed of. So absolutely, I mean, we've said that since that if we were to Cold Tape Series 2 and 3, we'd love her to be integral to that, because she just absolutely draws you in this incredible way, and she brought so much to Cold Tapes, didn't she? Just by being her, and she's a phenomenal character that I think you just really fall in love with as you move through the investigation. She's so fiery, and so intelligent that you can't help just kind of being in awe of her, I think.
Yeah, and her performance was brilliant. When we the conceit, like you say, of investigating a case remotely is obviously a big part of the format. And we'd want to create that kind of environment again, I think, if we were going to go and do it. But DCI Tessa, she really nailed the part, Polly, and that tonally what we were originally envisaging for the project. We wanted this to sound as real as possible. We wanted people who come to it to think that they could be eavesdropping on a real investigation. And that's what Sean was brilliant at, directing the show and getting these performances out of the cast that she put together and make it feel as natural as possible and as believable as possible.
I mean, I was going to say, it's one of those things where it's slightly irritating when you see people talk about awards and they talk about acting, and then you talk about voice acting, particularly, and then people will they will differentiate between voice acting and acting on screen or on a stage. And they'll say, well, that's just people talking in a sense into a microphone, and they're not really acting, they're just talking. But they miss the whole thing of it, where if you get a really good voice actor, and we'll stress actor, they are actually acting out these scenes, the emotion and everything that you would in a physical visual media format as well. They're acting just the same. And that's why you get these sort of emotions and how you can get carried away listening to these shows. Because I've done it before when I've spoken to people in America, because we carried on the audio drama aesthetic that we've had from decades ago. And we carried on in the UK doing that, but America dropped out of that on their radio shows and stopped doing that for decades.
Yeah.
But there's a whole history of well-produced, good audio drama from the UK. I'm really proud about the fact that we are
pioneers.
We're bloody good at it, let's face it. But yeah, it's important, I think, that people remember that they are actors just the same as all these other acting professions.
Well, what I would say as well is, especially in terms of cold tapes, is it's actually one of the things that was the most difficult in the casting was what we've tried to do is, as Robbie said, make this as authentic as possible, and asking someone to dial back their natural urge to perform and sound like they're just on a casual phone call to their boss, or like Tessa's on the phone to Barker, who's a superintendent, and to have someone as if they're being interrogated by the police and not overact that. That's an incredibly difficult skill, because you get actors who are used to working with the space and bouncing off someone else. And we recorded this with the police interviews, we literally had Tessa and the suspect in different rooms recording over Zoom, so that they didn't have that. They weren't looking at each other and going by body language. They really had to
find a new level in performance.
Exactly that, and dial it and dialing it down in that way is really hard, because you're taught to bring everything up and be dramatic, and especially a lot of the people that we auditioned were stage performers, and telling them actually just seem like you're not acting. really, really keep it casual. It's very hard for some people to do. So I think having them in separate rooms, not having that visual cue, it really made them have to do a bit of extra work, and it really informs their performance, which hopefully comes across when you get to that. Marv, you get into these interviews.
Well, I was going to say there is one bit in the when you've got the, because one of those I listened to last night was the episode where Tessa speaks with the family.
Yeah.
Okay. And in there, you've got these bits in there that are just natural sounding. And I'm guessing this was scripted, but it was pulled off effortlessly, seeming like a normal conversation. Sort of when is his name Tony, and he says something.
I was hoping you were going to bring up Tony Marv.
He says something, and then Tessa says, "Oh, could you say that again?" Sort of thing, because I didn't hear you. And that is so natural, because you find that on Zoom calls where you'll be like, hold on, we went out there. Yeah. Can you do that again? Because we lost signal, or this, that, and the other. And there's a naturalness to it. Before
we talk about that, the technical qualities that help obviously make cold tape sound as authentic as possible, is what's hilarious is right at the last minute, I didn't have someone to play Tony, who is Drew's stepdad. And so it's my boss. It's our boss. And we were like, I need someone to play this character. And it was we call him Big Tone, don't we?
Big Tone in the office, yeah.
Right.
And he came in, and I was like, right, I need you to play this character. And he really got into it, didn't he? And it works. But no, as you say, again, that we had the actors in one room, literally around the phone, as it would have been in the scene, speakerphone, and then we had Tessa in the studio, and they were on the phone. So there were dropouts, there were points where they couldn't hear each other, they were talking over each other, and that just as aside from getting everyone to be in character, was technically and as a kind of piece of audio, it does sound incredibly authentic, and that's what I love about what we've managed to do is you feel like a voyeur, because you feel like you shouldn't be listening to these conversations. So
it's raw.
Yeah, it's very raw, and we really didn't have to. Well, Joseph will kill me if I say this, who's our sound designer, but we really didn't do much in post in terms of affecting the voices and adding too much. We used as much of the raw audio in situ as we could, because we had used these mediums to record. So yeah, it is very raw, and it sounds
real. But like you said, Marv, did we write it in that way, the sort of the certain things that sound like ad-libs? Yeah, there was definitely moments where we the writers put that stuff in there, and then there were other times where we did allow a little bit of a reaction, at least, to the actual circumstances that we were recording in.
I was very clear from the beginning that if anything didn't feel natural to the actors, to change it, improvise. And Tessa Polly, who plays DCI Tessa, was incredible at that in terms of only improvising and adding these little reactions that just became so Tessa by the end of it. And we hadn't written that in, but we asked her to intentionally ask questions, especially in the police interviews and in other moments that weren't scripted, to throw the other actor off. Yep. So that you had these stutters and these stumbles, and they didn't quite know what to say. And just by her adding some of those in, it really made some people sound really guilty, didn't it? Because they didn't know what to say, and they were kind of just, thinking on the spot. So all of these things really kind of, I feel like what we learned from making this was, there's just a few kind of little techniques like that you can use that sort of put everyone in this space to give their best, because they're just they're acting and reacting on the spot.
Well, for people who are used to a more visual media of drama, I'd say it's along similar lines to the difference between, say, if you could see a play on stage, if you put that against like a television show or a movie, when they're doing a performance on the stage, they have to project. So there's a certain almost loss of the intimacy, in a sense.
Yeah.
That when you do a television show or a film, you've got the camera there, and that's a close-up thing. So you get more of an intimate, and you almost like dial back the projection. Absolutely. Acting, so you can actually put more emotion in. So you get the loudness of somebody in an angry situation, or the quietness of a calm situation there, and they can put more of that into. So it's more realistic, or more like life in essence, than you would with a stage performance. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're doing with audio. It's the same sort of thing, where it's an intimate, you're there with the emotion.
That's a brilliant point. It's the most intimate media, right, for consuming entertainment, I'd say, because it's like, it's just you normally with your headphones on, listening into a chatty pod like this, and you feel like you're in the room with the other people. And that's the feeling that we wanted to lean into with this drama too. We want people who are listening to be actively listening and in tune with the story and the little reactions of the characters in it.
And casting, then, what was the history of get putting the show together? So you've got this general gem of an idea to start with. Where did you go to from then with the scripting? And did you make this? Did the scripting then? Did you work it towards the actors when they were cast, as well as to what you were writing to fit them as actors?
No, so the scripting was done first. So
after we developed the story, right?
Yeah.
When we had the gem of the format, which was audio murder mystery,
closed circuit,
where you could close circuit, like a classic Agatha Christie story,
yeah,
where the listener can solve it to win money. it took us a few months to develop the Antarctica story that people hear in cold tapes. And we've got an incredible development team. Emma and Chris really fleshed out the characters and mapped out how they all sort of interlink and how each one of them could have an alibi, an opportunity, a motive to kill Drew. Yep. So that was all sort of seamlessly woven together.
Yeah. They came up with a web, didn't they?
It's a big
and
web.
The whole timeline, because that obviously, the tiny mentions of time on the night of the death. So everyone had to be accounted for or not. And all of that was such a puzzle to put together. Yeah.
Detail.
And obviously then, so they came up with that. And then there was, I think they came up with the red herrings that we put in to throw people off. And once all of that made sense, and it was a job, wasn't it?
It was one hell of a spreadsheet.
It really, yeah.
You've got one of those boards up, haven't you, with little bits of string, haven't you, linking one thing to another. Yeah.
We were creating the whole thing, so we needed the whole thing, and then if anything, we sort of took pieces away as we were trying to craft the story, like you said earlier about sequencing certain revelations so that the audience is going to continually be hooked in and start building the picture from their side. It's like a balancing act. And then once the team had sort of written all of that out in terms of the narrative, we've sort of filled that into the individual episodes and the layers of how we deliver that story. So the initial phone calls between Tessa receiving the brief from Barker and meeting the victim's family, and then obviously hearing all of those recordings from the base that Drew was doing, to get to know all of those individual characters, what we call the baseline chats, and then hear his own sort of audio diaries to take you through his journey at the base and his kind of mission, and unveiling obviously the reason why he might have been killed, and then later the final sort of pieces, which were DCI McAllister's remote interrogation and interviews with all of the 16 suspects that were left at that base. That all of that was clearly mapped out and turned into very tight briefs with all those red herrings and with all of those clues and the timeline nailed. And then that's when we gave a huge document to the two writers that we brought on board to the project. Before we brought those writers on, it was a total of, they got going after 9 months.
Yeah. I mean, there's about, how many of us have been working on this? About seven of us. Seven of us. And then we got the writers on to come in, obviously just bring all of that to life. And then in terms of the casting, but by that point, as you can imagine, they were so real in my head. The characters, I knew them so well from the scripts and from all of this development, that it was difficult. It was difficult because I had such a clear idea in my mind of how I felt they should sound. And so finding that specific person, it took time. I met with everyone that I got people to audition, and then I met with everyone of interest. And it really was like a case of just knowing. It was like, oh my God, you are this person. And there were so many like incredible synchronicities and like serendipities that happened when I was casting, in terms of Kate, who plays Sienna. Her brother is an Australian biochemist, which is the character she plays. And then Johan, his name's Atle Gunnarsson. He's got the same last name, which is quite a last name. But he came in and he was telling me about how much he resonated with the character because of certain things that had happened to him. There were lots of little things like that, and it was just like, oh yeah, you're them.
Yeah, and they would have like. We had a lot of interest, right? Because it's such a dense story, but the scripts were brilliant to begin with too.
Yeah.
Like Alexis and Jonathan, who wrote them concurrently for 5 months. It was September through to end of January last year that they started, and they had to turn around 80. There's 84 episodes, technically 84 files that people can listen to piece together the investigation. 600 pages of work.
It was like a huge book, wasn't it? Like a dissertation.
Yeah, and we like normally, right, when you're scripting a movie, you sort of work roughly that page equals a minute of film. Yeah. But with this, that just went out the window, didn't it? No. Went out the window. So we're actually recording 600 pages of audio, not knowing that it's going to be like 600 minutes long.
I think it was 800 in the end.
Yes, 17 hours of.
But what was lovely, and I think what really drew people in when I was explaining in the auditions what about Cold Tapes and how we were going to record it, is no one knew whether they were the killer or not. So we never told anyone anything until the day of the record. It was like, here's a load of NDAs and contracts that we need you to sign. So we kept it a secret for as long as possible, and that really intrigued people, I think, as a challenge to bring their script to life and their character. And there were so many things that worked incredibly when it came to recording because of that sometimes, I mean, I think they delivered things in a way that made them sound like a suspect because they weren't sure, but it really wasn't meant to sound like suspicious, but people weren't sure. So all of this kind of magic came from keeping them in the dark, I think. So that was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah. So all the actors now, apart from the ones that were involved, have no idea who did it.
Right.
Yeah.
But then that would give them a natural edginess that would be natural for anybody in that situation anyway, or nervousness.
Yeah, exactly. No, it worked really, really well, and it was great fun. When we gave Polly the scripts the evening before, she was due to record the killer's, kind of statement. She was texting me at like midnight. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So, I mean, as somebody who's really got into the show and listening to it, I'm going to go into this one so that I know for definite. So, you recorded the whole thing, start to finish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's wrapped.
Pardon? It's wrapped.
Just would say, yeah.
Yep. So, how will it end up then? Will it end up that you will have a break between the end of the actual files?
Yeah.
And then that allows people to actually, the time for the people to finish putting forward who they think the killer is, and then the time to then be able to pick the winner. And then have you got a show available then where the killer will be?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Say a couple of months down the line, you'll suddenly have you've got a new episode. Then the killer is
exactly that. So what's mental is that originally when we conceived the idea, I think it was my stupid idea that I thought that people could be done and dusted with this in the space of 12 weeks. That was kind of the original competition window. But we came to our senses.
Yeah. And
the competition was actually going to finish in September. So we were going to reveal the killer this September the 9th, I think. But we're actually, so this is a big exclusive for you, Marv, that because we're getting so much feedback from people who are listening and loving it like you, that they need more time. We're actually going to extend it. So it's not going to be revealed until like the end of February next year.
Wow.
Yeah. But so you're listening for free right now, Marv, aren't you? So you're just catching up with what's been released on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to your podcasts. But if people want to actually binge the whole thing now, they can go to coldtapes.com and pay £5, and they can access ultimately the whole investigation apart from that final file. So yeah, we know people. We're seeing people who are doing that right now, and who are there's even Reddit. I think a Reddit thread is sort of
discussing theories.
It's like imminent. There's a bit of chat happening there organically at the moment, which is like amazing to see. And I think as time goes on, hopefully more and more people are going to come together and talk about it. And it's maybe they'll listen to it on holiday this summer when they can really concentrate and blast it in one go.
Yeah, I think the feedback that we're getting from people is they listen and they want to go back and listen to certain things, listen again. Once you get into the police interviews and you think, oh, hang on, she's talking about that argument that happened. Drew mentioned that. Let me go back. So people are really keen to have the time to dive back in, get a real theory so they can get it right and win the money. So yeah, it's
amazing to see it all happening as we hoped. So, but even crazier to see the stats on Apple when I can see like the data coming back that says consumption for each file is like 110%. So people are literally coming back for more and really digging deep.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah. They've all got the notebooks out and doing notes, haven't they? Right, so this person sent that.
Yeah, I mean, you've got we've got like some intel from like listeners. Some people obviously going at it hard, like your
so my mum listened to it all in the first week, literally filled up a notepad, ran out 7 biros, went full detective mode, DCI Williams on it. And then Robbie's wife listened without making notes. So she just listened and she got right into the audio. And we were talking earlier about how there's not a right or wrong way to do this because there are things that my mum didn't catch that I know she didn't, that Sophie caught, and then vice versa. So I think you set yourself up for a different experience. And one will work for some people, one will work for others. But yeah, certainly it's amazing to see people getting that involved, and it is such a juicy world with all of these kind of other things going on, a love triangle and
just Antarctica itself.
The whole setting. I mean, it's eerie in its isolation and the thought of being locked in somewhere with that kind of chaos unfolding. I mean, God,
pressure cooker environment.
It really is. So God, we love it, don't we?
Yeah.
And we love that other people love it. It's the most rewarding thing in the world to hear people loving it as we do. So yeah.
For those people that experience the lockdown, it'll resonate with them because they might think of that as being they're stuck inside, almost in the same sort of situation where they're stuck inside a house with just whoever's inside that house.
Yeah.
And you've got the same sort of stuck inside this place, the research place in Antarctica. And these people might get that sort of thing of and feel the claustrophobic edge to it.
Yeah, that's a
great point. I've never thought about it that way either.
No. And it's so true. And I think someone says in Cold Tapes, they're like, everything becomes so big because your world is so small. So every little things that happen on the base, little arguments that happen or someone saying one thing, it blows up and becomes a huge thing because there's no escape. So yeah, I think you really feel that when you're listening, especially because you do have all of the kind of the audio cues, the drops, and there's little moments of the walkie-talkie coming in, and you're so immersed in it that pressure really, it becomes real for you.
So when you did those bits, was that somebody on a real walkie-talkie or was that effect?
No, that I had wanted to do it, but in the end, we added that one as an effect, didn't we? Although what I loved is that all the actors, like Johan, I remember he always used to pretend it was clipped onto his shirt, so he'd always put his little head down and kind of click it and be like,
I'm busy right now.
Talk into his pocket, yeah.
Mimic the physicality.
Yeah. But as much as we could do in situ, we did. Like in the post-mortem, which is file 4. Yep. We had so much fun recording that. I mean, it sounds weird we're saying that about a post-mortem, but you know, we had a DSLR in there clicking away. We recorded it in this.
It wasn't a studio.
No, it was like a corridor with a huge fan going off. We had again our boss's suit bag for the kind of body bag zip and all of these props so that it was recorded there and then, and we added no sound effects to that because it was all done then. So it was like watching a scene when I was kind of there recording. It was incredible to watch, and as much of that we could do. There's the poker game, which have you gotten?
No,
you haven't gone to that yet.
It's about 10 files away or so.
I love that part. So there's an altercation, let's say, that happens as the team are playing poker. It's one of Drew's secret recordings. And we had poker chips out on the table. We had drinks. We had all of that. So it was, we really wanted it to kind of be so immersive that we didn't have to add anything in post. And I think it comes through.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you've got that to look forward to, Marv.
I have. So what was a good? So I'm going to skip ahead now on the list that we've got. So, how did the prize money thing come about? Where's that from? And
I guess that sort of comes from my experience, really. So before I joined Free, I worked for a company distributing, licensing game shows.
Okay.
Non-scripted entertainment shows, and at the game shows, right at the heart of that is always some kind of lovely prize.
Yeah.
And it's always good when there's like real money there for people to win. We'd seen true crime blow up, especially in podcasting over the past few years. And I'd exec produced true crime podcasts before. And when I joined Free Turn, drama was a new experience for me. It was really exciting. And to sort of blend those worlds felt playful and positive as well, because true crime's sort of created this sort of era of internet sleuthing, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And it can be quite dangerous, right? And as we were sort of in the very early stages of development on Cold Tape, really sad case of Nicola Bully was happening, and all that stuff that was happening on TikTok and people getting involved. It was like, God, people need to stop this. And in a way, our thing became quite positive, because it was like, right, this is a fictional case where people can exercise those sort of natural urge to investigate and uncover and fact find, and we play on with that. And to have the prize, it's never been done before, right? We don't think a murder mystery of this scale has never been done before in audio, and to give people the chance to win money just feels like an amazing cherry on top. Not only great listeners in Great Britain can win that money. We did investigate whether we could do that internationally, and jurisdiction of like competition law was a bit of a painful one to navigate.
Yeah.
But here, especially in these times as well, cost of living crisis, the cost of entertainment too, is a big talking point in the industry. When we're looking to develop TV dramas like that, the bubble for some people has burst there now. The days of Netflix, Amazon, the streamers spending over the odds to commission content, it feels like those days are numbered. And even in podcasting, people who are in podcasting love it. Like you're doing this as a hobby. You're working full time as well as making this podcast, and to do a drama podcast of this scale, it ultimately as well, we're trying to create a new revenue model for podcasting. People are willing to, if they want to get involved and listen to this and play it, they do have to pay as well to win that money. So there is a transactional element to that, and for people to invest 17 hours of their time, maybe more if they're like re-listening to files, we wanted to reward them.
Yeah.
So when you came up with it, then did you then go somewhere for where did the is it based around sponsorship? Have you got sponsorship for it then?
No, we're only monetizing this at the moment through the Spotify Audience Network. I tell a lie. We do have a sort of a sponsor on it, but the money that we're making from sponsorship and through ads at the moment is no way covers the amount of time and the costs of actually making this with the actors and the writers and the post-production, all of the costs that went out of house for 310. We're a way off recouping that money. This is like a big swing for the company.
It's an experiment.
It's an experiment.
Yeah.
It is properly innovative. It's risky.
Yeah.
But for me, coming to work in the entertainment industry, I want to try new things out and really, this is about being creative. And I think podcasting, it's still a baby industry, and there's so much more that's going to happen. And I know that there's going to be another murder mystery like this. Someone's going to come up with their own and take the swing too. I can't wait to compare it. The competitive side of me is we've set out, I think, a really good position in the market for this type of entertainment product. And
exactly, that's what's so exciting is we can say whether it works, whether it doesn't. We know it works as an incredibly entertaining piece of audio. I think we can stand and say that we're so proud of it, like beyond proud of it, but to also just be proud to have taken that risk and to say there are no other podcasts right now that you can listen to and potentially win 10 grand. That's really exciting to say that we can offer that to someone, and like Robbie said, is to just do something new in the space and kind of maybe even just start a conversation about the future of podcasting and how we can be innovative,
playful.
Yeah, exactly. And
this is going to be there forever.
Yeah,
it's going to hopefully attract new listeners and new fans in years to come. The guys who make the Magnus archives at Rusty Quill, they say, look at audio drama as it's like you're releasing a novel, right? In 100 years' time, I'd love for people to still be like going back to the original, to Cold Tapes, to Antarctica, to Bowers Wilson, to the research base.
Yeah.
It's a thrilling story that will hopefully stand the test of time. And it's like an Agatha Christie story that new fans can come to, new generations can come to for years to come. It's a long bet.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about audio drama that lasts forever. I mean, I've got on CD. I've got the War of the Worlds.
So I knew you were going to say
that Orson Welles did back in the day. I've actually got that on CD. So I know where you're coming from with in years to come that you might have people. That's the weird thing. I was talking with Lauren Shippen, who does the Bright Sessions or did the Bright Sessions and these other great audio dramas. And she was saying that she finds it fascinating when she's done a show and then a year or two down the line, the account on Instagram or whatever for that show, for Bright Sessions particularly, she'll suddenly get people tagging Bright Sessions who only now are starting to get into it. And she said that's the interesting thing about it is that it's there. And when you stop thinking about it and you're like 3 or 4 projects down the line, and suddenly you're reminded of it because people will start quoting about it or talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. And that, like, we're so aware that this, we have to be patient. We're seeing incredible numbers, and it's really exciting, but this could be something that blows up in a few years' time. It could. It's just really exciting, isn't it, to be kind of sitting and watching what happens. Yeah.
We try to make it an appointment to listen with that prize fund as well, right? That's probably the one thing I missed out about the 10k prize. It was like we're trying to do something, creating an immediacy around the listening of it, like water cooler television, right? People still love those shows where they know that they're all watching at the same time and they can come together at work or with their friends and family at the weekend and be like, did you see that thing last night? I mean, certain shows capture the zeitgeist and deliver that in the way that the broadcasters of the stream is scheduling them.
That's a real thing. You're right in that we should have mentioned that, because we really, if I could lay out my dreams for what would happen with Cold Tapes, is like, we want people to be keeping up to date with it, or have that competition deadline in mind and going to their best mate, oh my God, have you heard the interview with so and so, and starting those conversations. And that was a big thing for us, is like this community aspect that it could encourage people, not just sitting down and watching, I don't know, what's that one? My mum is obsessed with that Race Across the World right now.
Brilliant.
Everyone's and it's like that.
Schedule properly.
Exactly. The fact that we could start those sorts of conversations where people are excited about podcasts, and this podcast that we've created, that competition element kind of would drive that. And that's what I would love for this, is to kind of I said the other day that I'd love to be able to shout over to my neighbour, like, who do you think did it? And then they know exactly what I'm talking about, and it be this big conversation.
Yeah, it's almost like a Lost quality to it in that way, where it's like, oh, did you hear what Kate said to Sawyer in Lost, and this, that, and the other? And it's that. I mean, people can binge your show. Yeah, but it's sort of something that I have an issue with some programs, where I think that on streaming services particularly, I think they get it wrong in some ways, because there's certain shows that they'll just put the whole lot out in one go.
Yeah.
And those shows, sometimes I'll think you would have had a better longevity with these things if you'd have trickled it out in essence, because then you'd have had the weekly, oh, did you notice this? Did you see this? See that? And there's the conversation that continues and it builds. Whereas if you put it all out in one go, that conversation goes for a few days until the next thing appears.
Yeah, you're spot on. Exactly. And that's why I think some people are choosing to listen in that way, because that's what they enjoy about it, but about the whole experience. But it's there if you want to binge it. If you just can't wait till next week, it's there.
I think at some point I'll probably get to the end of the ones that are available on the services, and I'm going to have to pay for this.
I'm going
to have to.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think you will. And
that will go in the blog straight away. I'll be saying, I've had to pay for this.
Yeah.
I've got to know.
I can't wait.
So logo, sound is done by somebody else, and it's basically the sound that's there essentially when you're recording. The logo I like, 'cause it's like a tape cassette, a better tape cassette than mine on my notes, by the way.
Oh no, yeah,
I love the doodle.
Yeah,
the doodle. I should come in there though on the sound. We did play around with a lot of the acoustics in studio or outside the studio, like Sean said about the post-mortem, but we did have a really good
sound designer. He, like I said, he as much as we could do, we did in studio, but some of the secret recordings especially, and just helping to nail that kind of, like Drew's diaries, we got him to record on a little handheld kind of dictaphone, but he added a really gorgeous kind of lo-fi quality to all of that. But everything he did, there were some things that we obviously couldn't do in studio, and he is the most wonderful man. He was so patient. He worked 4 hours, didn't he? He really made the world come to life in this just phenomenal way. And God, yeah. We owe him a glass of wine or so.
Yeah, a few favours.
Yeah.
And then on the tape, on the logo, the cover, the artwork, that's another sort of 310 extended family job. That was our colleague Thisbe, her dad Dean.
Yeah. He did all the design.
Yeah. Which is like super cool, right?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's we went round.
I love the red.
Say that again.
I love the red.
The red.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that bloody murder feeling.
Because we are such a small little team here, and we're all so passionate about this project, because it really is like our baby child of Freeturn. The arguments, but the debates that we had about how it should look and how it should feel. Obviously, everyone had their own kind of image in their head of how what this should look like, and it took us a long old time to get to that, didn't it? But
it did.
I'm so glad. I love it. I think it's really eye-catching, and yeah, it's lovely that Fifi's dad did it as well.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
And then obviously it's a great sort of springboard and palette that Sean's been nailing on social media. So
thank you.
Sean has built that Instagram, the Twitter.
Yeah.
You know, she's talking to all of the fans there, and then crafting all of those images and videos, and creating the world.
A message.
Yeah. Creating the world outside of the podcast. So this is a properly multi-channel thing now. And I don't think we all quite hated the work and all of that sort of happening.
No.
We're continuing to build it and watch this space. There's other things that are going to happen between now and the competition closing that are we're creating more immersive experiences around Cold Tapes as well. So hopefully you'll love them too when they drop, Marv.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure I will do. But I think it's perfect as an audio drama as well, because it's one of those things where it's a rarity, where it's a show that if it was done in a visual media, it wouldn't really make much sense, because all you'd have then would just be the DCI sat at a computer, listening to files, and that's all that you'd have on the television. You're just watching this person on television, just watching the television essentially.
Yeah,
it's like Gogglebox.
Yeah,
in Antarctica.
Yeah, I mean, someone recently, my mother-in-law is well into it as well, and she was like, "You can imagine it as a TV drama," and I was like, "Really?" But she was like, "Yeah, all of that amazing stuff, the research and the worlds that they're covering in Antarctica, all of these scientists," and I was like, "Yeah, fair play, actually. They are off base." And we do a lot. The writers have done a lot to bring their worlds, their individual worlds to life in those baselines when we sort of are introduced to all of those in different characters.
Yeah.
And then obviously you'd have the home life of Tessa. She actually investigates this sort of whole case overnight. She's working round the clock to interview these people. I mean, how's that impacting her home life and her relationship?
It's so true.
She's working nights like you, Marv.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there's lots of other mini dramas that are happening in the characters' lives that could lend themselves more maybe to the visual aspect. But you are right. This is we created this for audio. The whole conceit of it. It's an audio drama. That's what we set out to do. If it goes anywhere else, fantastic, but it's a brilliant audio drama experience first and foremost.
I need to plug my laptop in. I'm so sorry.
Let's do that. Right. So while that's happening, I'll ask you first then Robbie, what would you say is your favourite murder mystery?
Great question. So Ooh. In terms of the one I return to time and time again,
yeah,
it's a real life one, but it's a dramatic retelling, I suppose, of it all. Is Zodiac,
yeah,
the Fincher movie,
yeah,
of the Zodiac killers. Terrible crimes, but that is like one of the greatest real life mysteries of all time, right? And I think that movie, it's so frightening and so immersive, really brings to life California during that era and the characters that obsess over the case that feels so real. I just think it's brilliant drama. And after you watch it, you're like, who was it who did? And it sticks with you. It's like it's in you forever. It's harrowing. So that's the sort of the real life murder mystery that I always come back to. And then on the sort of fictional side, the more fun side, lighter side, I went to the cinema to see the last Knives Out movie, Glass Onion.
yeah.
They're just great fun. Benoit Blanc and Daniel Craig. Everyone knows him for Bond, but he's brilliant in that character, and it's just a good old-fashioned trip to the cinema. That for me, it's like there's something for everyone. And that's sort of the playfulness that we want. We wanted a bit of that in Cold Tapes too. It's almost like you want the harsh reality of a murder like that. If Drew died, if Drew was real, you wanted to get into the reality of it all and play that out. But we had fun with the different relationships between those characters on base and creating those characters that were slightly larger than life, but you felt real that any good murder mystery is what a fictional murder mystery needs.
Yeah, I mean Zodiac. Sticking with that one, what you've said there with that, it's sort of like when I watch that film, because it's a build of a film. It's a film that I think has built up reputation over the years, in a sense. And I also see it as a progression for Fincher from what he did with Seven, in a sense. So he did that with Seven, where you've got that going on there, and then he built from that. And I don't think he thought seriously about, I've done that. I'm going to use what I've done there and put it with this real life story. I don't think he thought that as a filmmaker. But without him knowing, I think that was something that was there in him probably when he did that. And it just feels natural to me that he's gone from that to that, in essence.
Yeah, I hear you. I think, because I love Seven as well. And the high concept sort of nature of Seven. Ultimately, the Zodiac Killer, right? It's just like stranger than fiction, isn't it? It's like go back to what he was sending in those puzzles, and it's just it shares a lot of DNA, I think, with Seven. Yeah, absolutely right. And I was thinking at first, but it's reality, it's grounded. It's Seven's horrendous, but God, I mean, the Zodiac Killer was real deal, and that was it's in real life, man. Yeah. Heavy stuff.
Sean, what's your favourite murder mystery?
Well, being the audio producer, I'm going to have to say Serial. I'm going to have to say Serial, and that's kind of, I always keep saying this to the team, is that's what we want Cold Tapes to become. That kind of mass hysteria around it. I mean, I was saying to Robbie earlier, we were talking about it, I haven't listened to it in years, but it stayed with me. If anyone kind of says to me, can you recommend a podcast that I can get into, I always give them that as a first kind of entry into what audio can be like if you let yourself be immersed in it.
It's a great point that Sean made there around it. It was obviously an inspiration for us when we were setting out with Cold Tapes, because I don't think audio drama's done this yet. There hasn't been a moment in sort of podcasting that's captured the attention of so many people at one time.
Yeah.
Like Serial did before.
Yeah.
And that was a big aim for us as a company. It's like, we're going to make something that everyone can get involved with, that's going to capture everyone's attention. And yes, Serial obviously still feels like it's the one in podcasting, that nothing's touched it or come close to it since. So yeah, I actually introduced my mum to Serial recently.
Did you? Yeah.
She hadn't listened to podcasts before. I told her to old tapes. I've never done that before.
Yeah.
So I've been giving her all of the classics.
That's a good shout. I need to give that to my mum. Yeah. Now she's finished her investigation.
What's yours, Marv?
Yeah.
Me, I do love. I mean, that's my favourite Fincher film. That is as well. Yeah. I think Zodiac is a fantastic film. But Cold Tapes, yes. Cold Tapes, yes. Yeah. We actually the other year we saw Mousetrap the other year.
Oh, I've not seen it.
Same.
That's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah, terrible admission here.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, Sean, I've never seen Mousetrap either.
No.
But it'd be bloody good, because how many years has that been going?
Yeah.
I know. There you go. People still listening to Cold Tapes in 100 years.
There you go. Fingers crossed.
Love it.
I meant to ask earlier, we're going to go back to something earlier on that I forgot, which was to ask Sean, so in an audio drama, how do you approach an audio media directing differently to when you're doing a visual media? So what's the difference between, or do you have a different approach when you're approaching making audio than you do when you're doing visual?
Well, Marv, honestly, this was my first time directing an audio drama.
Yeah.
So, and I work in audio. That's my medium. I'm an audio nerd. I absolutely love it. I've not directed in a visual medium ever.
Okay.
But my background is predominantly in directing voiceovers for advertising, or I've worked, I've done a lot of audio tours and kind of a lot more. I would say, massively. My background is kind of in like voiceover for ads. Right. So obviously it's a completely different world. The scripts are usually just a few words or 30 seconds, and there's a very clear brief, and there's not really a character that you're getting into there. So it really was a kind of complete learning experience for me in terms of directing this massive cast of incredibly strong and interesting characters. So I can't answer that question, but
okay,
what I would say is one of the biggest things I learned from this project was just, especially in casting and finding that right fit, was just trusting my gut. It sounds so cliche, but if I met someone and there was just this tiny little glimmer about them that felt right, or felt like they were going to bring something new to the table, or they brought an excitement that the actor before didn't bring to the audition, it kind of learned to really trust myself and trust in someone's kind of work ethic, and how much prep they were going to do with the script, and how much enthusiasm they had with the script. So it was really like a baptism of fire for me in terms of directing something like this. But I listen to a lot, and I love people, and I love working with people, sitting down, talking to people, I love writing, and I love a good story. So it kind of was just marrying those things to just bring these characters to life in a collaborative way with the actor.
And she smashed it.
Thanks. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. I remember when they kind of brought it to me in the office and was like, so do you want to do this? Do you want to produce this and direct it? And I thought, how the hell am I going to do that? I don't know if I can do that, but we've done it. And
you have.
an absolutely beautiful kind of process of learning, and like incredibly hard. I mean, God,
challenging.
It was very, very, trying at times. The hours and the you can't think of anything else when you're kind of in a production like that. It does become your whole life and your world. But it was incredible, and it's just been the most amazing reward. And working with the actors, they were all brilliant people, weren't they?
Yeah,
really lovely. Yeah, lovely cast. I think that's it as well, is you know instinctively if you work well with someone. And we did a lot of, in the auditions, part of the audition was to see how well they took direction. Sometimes I'd ask them to deliver the script in a way that, I didn't want them to deliver it in that way for Cold Tapes, to see if they could apply that feedback. And they were all just a brilliant bunch of lovely people. It's a shame we can't do with all the same cast, isn't it?
The same people.
A bit do a Chris Nolan and just cast the same people but in different roles.
Yeah, good point.
Or Cold Tapes prequel. I don't know how that would look.
So, case solving tips. I'm not sure whether we should go there, because that might give away what's going on if I ask for case solving tips.
No, we've got a lot. If you head to our Instagram or any of our socials, there's some actually I've scheduled some tips coming up next week, some detectives tips. Like we said earlier, like some people are making tons of notes, some people are going by instinct. I think definitely one of the things that we've just been saying is establishing the motive, opportunity, and alibi. Just sticking to those three things. Crucial, yeah. And go back and listen. I think I would say is, once you've listened to the police interviews, there's going to be some things that stick out to you, that with new context or that suspect's reaction, you're going to want to go back and listen to maybe some of the secret recordings or some of Drew's diaries, because I think it's like when you watch a movie for the second time or listen to something, once you know the answer and you go, oh my God, I didn't even notice that the first time. It's going to be that. So just staying active and then going back and maybe looking at things in a different light. But follow us on Instagram at Cold Tapes Official, and there's some tips on there and links to some articles and stuff as well, where Lyndon, he used to be a murder cop, he worked with us to develop there's a whole
Hare Krishna's on something.
Performance going on outside. He helps us to develop obviously the police interviews and the interview technique and formatting the scripts in a way that was as authentic as possible to a real investigation. So he has written some things, isn't he? And there's like an article in the Sun with him, and
that's cool.
Good points too.
Lyndon runs a business called Consulting Cops. And they were a big partner of ours on the series, because if we wanted to make it the most authentic murder mystery of all time, we couldn't be making mistakes in the investigation from a police procedural point of view. And he literally worked with our development team, with Emma and Chris, and with the writers Alexis and Jonathan, week in, week out, to ensure that we all stayed true to that authenticity.
So you get like red circles around things and going, no.
All of that, exactly. Like we had a live Google document that the writers were feeding into, and we could make our comments there, and Lyndon would even make some suggestions in terms of how
she would address them.
So we just added some extra fairy dust on the project. Brilliant partner. Can't speak highly enough of him and the way he went about it.
Because thinking about it, that's clever with the bit with Tessa, where she's saying in certain bits to lose the police of it all, in a sense, the distance between them, and say to her, oh, just call me Tessa or whatever. And that's an interesting one, because then you think, that is done in such a way that then you will get these people responding, hopefully, in the questioning a bit more honestly and a bit more openly, in a sense, and you can catch things better than if you're in a situation where you are calling her MAM or
Absolutely.
DCI or whatever. Yeah.
That's one of the things that Lyndon said, wasn't it? Is especially the initial interviews that they would conduct, that you go in with the kind of you're my friend approach, like I'm here to help you, and that works really well, as you say, in getting them to relax and maybe open up in ways that they wouldn't have otherwise. What I would say is you certainly see a change.
Yeah, prepare yourself, Marv.
Yeah, in the
Right.
second as things hot up, because she has to change tactic.
Yeah, changes gear.
And it's I was listening to some of them today actually, and I was just like, whoa, you don't want to be on the end of that firing line. So it's as clever as with anything like that. There is a degree of manipulation involved. She's trying to get to the root of this person and press their buttons and get them to talk. So it was incredibly informative having Lyndon on hand to help with that.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to people if they were doing a podcast or an audio drama themselves?
Question.
I think that audio drama, hopefully, and we've proven this, is like ripe for challenging new formats and real creativity. So I would say be brave in the creative and have conviction.
Yeah.
Go for it if you can. You can do so much more in audio than you can, obviously, in with TV, I think.
Yeah. To add to that, I would say I think it would be easy to think of visual mediums, TV and film, as a more glamorous kind of mode. If you've got this story and you want to bring it to life, but with audio, you're kind of limitless, especially if you don't have much of a budget, you don't have access to certain locations or certain pieces of tech, all of that. There are such incredibly clever ways to build a world with audio, to just make people feel on edge, to feel uneasy, even with silence, pauses, certain pitches. You can really play with people in a way that I think extends beyond kind of visual cues. And like Robbie said, I think just being creative and being put off by the fact that you don't have that visual storytelling. It's a wider playground, I think, to really be creative and just playful was a good word that you said earlier.
Cheers, man.
Well done.
Yeah, I mean, audio. I find that with audio, with television and with film, you're being given everything in essence, and it's just, for the most part, it's not allowing the listener to be immersive in it. Whereas with an audio, you're as a listener, you are part of it in essence. But also, I would say to people who are thinking of doing this, the creativity of creating an audio drama is, when you do certain things, it's incredible, because you'll find, because I played with it when I did media studies, where you'll find these little bits where you'll do things and there's nothing so eerie and incredible as when you get like this moment when you've got people talking, you add a little bit of an echo to it or a reverb to that sound. And also when you add to that like a sound of dripping water, like a drip of water, and keep dripping and add echo to that. And automatically that takes you to an eerie cave, for instance, and that sort of thing. And that is there's such a creativity in there and an excitement of, oh, I've made that happen and it works.
Absolutely. I like that. You're spot on with, it's so rewarding to play and then get it right. And even, we obviously did so much of that in cold tapes, but when I mentioned budget there, like if someone has an incredible story and they want to bring it to life, it only takes an afternoon experimenting with Foley to realize what you can build. And I always remember, like you just said, I studied sound as well, and I was trying to create like an enchanted forest, and was running a biro up and down a notepad, like spine, the rings sounded like fairy wings. And it's little things like that you don't have to pay for sound effects. You don't need a library. You don't need to commission someone to create these things. You can just be playful in your everyday life and go, oh, that sounds like this. And yeah, I think it's if you love sound and you love a story, it's what better reward to be able to do all of that yourself as well, and not need a whole kind of camera crew of 500 people.
It kind of reminds me of who's the filmmaker. Unbelievable. Used to make loads of kids' TV. Bagpuss, the Clangers.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
Myself, forgotten. Anyway, it'll come to me. Floyd. No. Anyway,
keep going.
He was amazing for creating. He made all the sounds himself.
Yeah.
Of these worlds, he just did it himself.
Yeah.
He was like the original beatboxer, and he was bringing in all of these sort of.
Yeah, bring back the audio drama where it's one guy making all the sounds himself with his mouth or whatever. That's what I want to listen to that.
Oliver Postgate.
Who?
Oliver Postgate.
Oliver.
Is.
Yeah, legend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ivor the Engine as well.
Ivor the Engine. Just like absolute classics, right? And the fun of that was in the creativity of the sound that he was making. Yeah.
How did the clangers sound? I can't remember.
That's the Clangers. Yes, it is. Yeah.
That's it. Well done.
We've got off to
new job now, Robbie.
From podcast and an audio drama, but that it shares some of that creativity.
I mean, I found as well with it, with we were going to do a sign off then, and now I'm stuck in this bit. But I will sometimes go out with. I've got GarageBand on my phone.
Yeah.
So I will go out, and when I'm out and about, because I do music as well, guitars and things behind me, and if I do like an atmospheric piece of music, I will be outside working or be just generally outside or something, and I'll think, do you know what? I like the sound of the traffic in the distance, and I'll get GarageBand going and I'll record that. Or if I like the sound of stupid things, if I hit a piece of fence or something, it makes a nice sound, and I think, do you know what? I could do a drum beat with that.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And I do these sort of things while I'm out and about. It's amazing what you can do with just strange things.
To that, you're always kind of on the lookout, aren't you? Especially if you're music minded. I mean, you just can't. We were going down some stuff. I went shopping at the weekend. This is going to sound absolutely mental. We went shopping at the weekend to Lakeside, and I was walking down some concrete steps.
Yeah.
I can't explain it, but the way this like slap of the steps. I said to my other half, I was like, God, isn't that a great sound? And he was literally like, you are mental. Are you okay? But I honestly was like, God, yeah, what could I use that sound for? It sounded so good. And yeah, I'm glad you understand that, Marv, because you thought I was absolutely psycho.
Because there was this jar as well that my other half Louise was going to get rid of the other day. And I was, and there was this jar, and I was saying, do you know what? With a bit of rice, that'd sound flipping cracking. That would as a shaking instrument, or making the sound of rain.
The world is the playground, isn't it? Robbie's weirdos.
Robbie thinks, oh dear, who am I talking with?
I started it off. This whole
Robbie's the clanger.
This chain, with the clanger.
Yeah, you did. Okay, so what sort of podcast do you both listen to?
You want to go first?
Well, I'll be honest, I love a self-help podcast.
Yeah.
I absolutely love listening to something and feeling empowered afterwards. And I very often listen to a podcast. It's called The Confidence Chronicles.
Yeah.
And it's a life coach. Her name is Erica. She calls herself Erica from America. She's this Latin American powerhouse of a woman. And yeah, just always listening and feel like I'm going to take on the world after. So that's what I'm listening to at the moment.
And I have sort of a sort of regular, pretty robust schedule. Like, I know that I'm going to tune into the rest is entertainment on a Tuesday now.
Yeah.
Desperate for Marina and Richard to listen to Cold Tapes, because I'm sure they'd love it.
Yeah. I'm hassling their producer, aren't I, Neil?
It's we get a record from those guys, it might move the needle a bit. And then I listen to The Town, which is a great another industry inside podcast about entertainment from a very sort of US perspective. But Bellany, who hosts that, is very good. And then I'm always on the lookout for recommendations, because I think podcasts are all about, it's like any good entertainment, like TV, drama, film. It's word of mouth. It's what's everyone else listening to.
Well, you know what you need to tune into?
What's that?
Pods like us.
Well, yeah, get pods like us into the weekly schedule, Marv.
Exactly.
And then it's whether we can squeeze in any new audio drama that's like sizzling, or any. I love a good factual narrative.
Yeah.
True crime pod, something that's going to be real compulsive listening that I'm going to want to binge in a sense. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a show I listened to recently as a suggestion, which is, and now I'm going to have to look this up. Where is it? I'm going to find it. So I spoke with a creator called Nicholas Tukoski, and he's recently come out with something called, that's it, it's called The Passage. Okay. I'm going to show you the artwork for it. Let's have a look. There you go.
Okay.
Now, that is really different because it's part fact and part not. Because, so you've got this person called the ferryman who picks up people when they've just passed away. But the factual side to it is he's picking up people who are real people from the real world, essentially. So you'll have him talking with the first episode is Billy the Kid.
Right.
So what he does is he will then give them passage so long as they tell him their story.
Right.
So it's sort of like it gives you a bit of history and factual documentary type thing, but in a fictional way, in essence. And I just thought that was a really clever sort of way to look at things.
Yeah, that's a great reco, mate. I'm going to get on that. I might listen to that on my cycle back home tonight.
The Passage.
Yeah, The Passage. Yeah.
In the notes.
So there you go. I've passed one on there.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, where can people find you, get hold of you, and give you suggestions for Robbie to get some more listening in?
So you can head to coldtapes.com to find out more about Cold Tapes. Obviously, buy the series if you want to binge it and enter the competition. We're also on Facebook. Just search for Cold Tapes. We're on Instagram at Cold Tapes Official. We're on Twitter if you want to have a chat, which is Cold Tapes Pod. We're on TikTok. I'm still trying to work that out, Marv. It's an absolute...
So am I.
It's crazy, but that's Cold Tapes Official too. And yeah, if you're into Reddit, we've got a little thread going on there and people are discussing theories, and we'd love to, I just want to be nosy and read what everyone's who people are suspecting and what they're thinking at every stage of their investigation. So, but those are our main channels. We're also on YouTube, which just search for Cold Tapes.
All right. Thank you very much for speaking with me today.
No problem,
Thanks
mate.
for having us.
Yeah, thank you. I love how passionate you are about Cold Tapes.
It's your fault for making something so good.
Oh, thank you so much. You have to keep us informed with who you think did it once you've gotten through.
Yeah, and when you think I need to do the whole thing now.
Yeah. What's your binge point?
Yeah, when's the binge point? It's when I catch up and then I'll be like, I've got to listen to the rest now.
Yeah. Oh, thanks so much for having us. It's been great. We loved it.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
You can find Pods Like Us on any streaming platform. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, TikTok, and you can contact us through podslikeus@gmail.com. And there is a Patreon as well if you want to go there for some extra diaries and things from me. Well, audio diaries anyway. I just waffled then. But anyway, thank you everyone for listening, and I hope you listen again to another episode of Pods Like Us.